if we're not able to innovate and disrupt, we're going to be left behind. And that's why I mentioned the names. No disrespect to name names by companies, but that's the only way we actually get the reality of the polycrisis we're sitting in today. So we're really here to look at the women at the head of their game in technology and look at how they're navigating. And they're pearls of wisdom for us today in how do we equip ourselves to maneuver through this polycrisis. But before I run ahead to our webinar, let's just give some context to why we celebrate August month in South Africa. Who remembers why we celebrate, except for my panelists? Who remembers why we celebrate this? The march. I love that you know your history. 1956, you weren't even born then. Great. Right? Right? But 20,000 women marched so that you and I could have this freedom and not walk around with a pass in our hands to be allowed access. Right? And they broke barriers at that time in 1956. But it was the breaking of a barrier. 2024, let's fast forward. What barriers are we breaking today? When only 19% of South African women sit on board level. When 50% of gender-based violence is committed by intimate partners. Yeah? Where 30% of women, only 30% of South African women earn the same, doing the same job as their male counterparts. What barriers have we as women and men that work together broken in 2024? Those are some bleak stats. And that's where our march must begin. Our march begins in our homes, starts in our homes. How do we raise the boy child and the girl child? That's where it starts, because those are the personalities that play out in the boardroom. That's the personality that knows whether I should be bold or I need to be subservient because I'm supposed to be seen and not heard. It starts in our homes. It starts in our communities. And we mold the nation by how we raise. And then we have further raisings, right? You become a leader. You have teams under you. How do you change the dynamic of how people have been institutionalized? How do you change the dynamic of their core belief systems so that they can break their own barriers? It's easy to say it's a patriarchal society, but I look at the women here. Have you been stopped by the patriarchal society? I already know the answer. The answer is no. Sure, it plays into it, but it's certainly not a doorstopper when you're ready to break barriers and break ceilings. Right? As we turn our focus to the future, we find ourselves in a world where leadership is being redefined by rapid technology advancements, and the multifaceted global crisis. In this evolving landscape, women are just not participants and contributors. They're actually essential. Inclusive leaders at the helm, ensuring that diverse voices are heard and that leadership is representative of the world we live in. Their conscious leadership blends innovation with empathy, bringing everyone along the journey and redefining what it means to lead in challenging times. Our esteemed panel today, and I'm going to introduce them with a short introduction, will explore crucial intersections of leadership. And today we'll delve into the rise of artificial intelligence, blockchain, and how it's reshaping our industries, especially in human resources, where the role of HR professionals is evolving alongside technology. We'll discuss, importantly, how conscious leadership is becoming increasingly important as leaders are called to navigate not only through technical challenges, but also the ethical and human-centered dimensions of their roles. This is more than a discussion today. It's a celebration of the bold and beautiful and brilliant-minded women who are driving their change. Their insights will challenge us to rethink leadership in this evolving digital age. And I hope with such a big panel, we'll have some insights into some of their own stories as well, as you've navigated the path to get to where you are at the top of your game. Because it's their stories that will inspire us to consider how AI and human resources can work together to build a future where technology enhances rather than replaces human potential. I'm going to introduce our first panelist. Professor Monica Singer is a business advisor to Consensus and a dear friend of mine and a friend of Regenesis. I actually met Regenesis through Monica Singer coming to watch her many years ago on a panel discussion very much like this. And she said, and I was like, who's Regenesis? And so it was in Pybus, Johan. So she's actually the first person that introduced me to Regenesis. Monica is a chartered accountant and was the first CEO of South Africa's Central Securities Depository Straight from 1998 to 2017. Let me tell you, it's not on a bio, but because I know her. So Monica disrupted the way we transact on the JSE from going from 50 transactions, am I right, or 250, to 50,000 transactions in a day, right? She's won phenomenal global awards as CEO. She currently serves as South Africa lead and advisor to Consensus, the largest blockchain globally. While she's also practices being a professor of practice at the University of UJ, specializing in blockchain for the accounting and auditing profession. She holds too many accolades for me to go through, way too many, but really a genius in the fields that she has dominated and played in. Leanne James, I think just give a wave out to everybody, and let's give an applause as we do each one. Let's welcome them. Let them feel the energy of being with us. Leanne James hails at Microsoft at the moment. She is the Data and AI Lead Africa, so really the AI conversation. Leanne James is a seasoned leader in the tech industry with over a decade experience advancing AI technologies across the continent. And her expertise comes from business process optimization, risk management, analysis, and previously she held roles at Microsoft and other companies like Alex Forbes and Dimension Data. Thank you, Leanne, for joining us. I'm going to jump across to Faith. Faith Byrne is our CIO from Eskom, and no questions about load shedding to Faith, please, right? She's the Chief Information Officer at Eskom Holdings, where she oversees the group IT strategy across divisions and subsidiaries. And with over 2 decades of experience in IT governance, business strategy, and digital transformation, she has led initiatives in information security, data management, and cloud migration. Prior to Eskom, she held positions at Sebo Solutions Group, Novartis, and AXA, and remains committed to both business excellence and community service. Thank you, Faith, for joining us today. I'm going to jump again here to Neo Tooth. Neo is from SAICA, so I'm sure Monica has had some history with SAICA with her accreditation. And really, SAICA does some phenomenal work. I mean, from a School of Finance perspective at Regenesis, I can really commend them. Neo is a seasoned chartered accountant, surprise, surprise, and the senior executive for learning and development at SAICA. I think they wouldn't even have taken you into L&D if you didn't have went to CA by profession, where they have been pivotal in aligning education initiatives with South Africa's national priorities. With almost 2 decades of experience as a senior lecturer, Neo has developed expertise in academic writing, quality assurance, and team leadership. And beyond technical accounting, Neo is a recognized subject matter expert known for problem solving and fostering strategic relationships, making significant contributions to the professional development of future leaders in South Africa. Thank you so much, Faith. Neo. Vanisha Balgoban from Essentia, Principal Director and Lead Talent Organization. Vanisha leads the people and advisory practice at Essentia South Africa, advising clients on preparing workforces for future transformations, specifically in technology, processes, and capabilities. As a registered industrial psychologist, Vanisha is passionate about helping businesses stay responsive to an evolving workforce by enhancing the interface between people and technology. Thank you, Vanisha, for joining us, and we look forward to the tech people conversation. Irene Kiwia. Yeah. So Irene Kiwia, co-founder and chief growth of Adanian Labs. Irene actually started her career as a coder, tech as well. Am I right? Did I get it wrong? Public relations. Okay. Public relations. Irene is a distinguished entrepreneur with almost 2 decades of experience in media, technology, and development, specializing in women and youth development. As a co-founder of Chief Growth Officer of Adanian Labs, she's pivotal in scaling tech businesses across Africa. That's why I thought you were in coding. and the Africa Blockchain Center focusing on blockchain capacity and solutions. Irene's based in Johannesburg, and her work spans across the continent, driving programs that integrate technology and capacity building to support women and youth in the fourth industrial revolution. Thank you, Irene, for joining us. Who did I miss out? Right, I think I left it last because of the name, right? Zondi. Wait, let me try this again. Nashlakanipo. Say it for me. Klakanipo. Zabera. Klakanipo. Can you see I got it right? Give me a round of applause for that. Like, that's like, I get my name butchered all the time, so I try to get everyone's name right. Is an expert in business B2B go-to-market strategies, and she hails as the marketing operations executive of CISPRO, and we've done much work with CISPRO at Regenesis, the same with Microsoft as well. Experience in technology and products, and she's successfully driven growth for SMEs and various sectors. Her insights are into digital-first campaigns to boost brand awareness and demand. Another round of applause for our panelists. You can see I could have used half the session just going through their CVs, right? So they're overqualified to be here. But women, just to kick off on today's discussion, I think I'm gonna ask maybe more a personal question. And really, how have you navigated the complexities of maneuvering and delving through the polycrisis we face today? Share your example from your own experiences. So we find ourselves in this ever-evolving world. How did you climb that ladder in the tech space as a female? And how do you see yourself maneuvering in this world? And how should we navigate through the complexities of this polycrisis? Anyone that wants to put up their hands? I knew that.
I believe in constant education. So I always say, if you're the most intelligent person in a room, you're in the wrong room. So then I kept on changing to be outside of my comfort zone, and then always feeling inadequate. And you know how it is, the imposter syndrome that we all suffer. So the only way to, counteract that is through constant learning, and never be shy to ask questions. So also the problem is I'm a boomer, and I'm always working with millennials and Gen Zs, and they look at me like, oh my God, this old lady. So it's fine. So I take all this abuse all the time. I don't care. And also they don't have patience. Like millennials are very fast with the computers, and we were not raised with computers, people. So, yeah, okay. But I don't let anything intimidate me. So I ask questions. If I look down, doesn't matter. And then eventually I get to their level and even better. So people carry on learning and don't be intimidated by anything. Not men, not younger, no nothing.
Sure, I'll follow on.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so I am a millennial, so so technology is sort of a second nature. So it hasn't been as threatening, even though I didn't start in the tech space. But through the polycrisis we've been facing, I think what's helped me, especially catapult my career, has been showing that I'm a different type of leader, being a conscious leader, especially in tech, where you don't really find that. Our industry is still very much white male dominated, and that's not a natural predisposition. So if you show that you can manage teams differently, you can enable teams, you can support teams through the crises that they face whilst they're still delivering, I think it sets you apart in that industry. And of course, showing that you also have the technical aptitude and the business acumen as well to drive business growth. Yeah.
Thank you. I think with every technological disruption, there's always that element of fright or fight. So we either shy away from it or we embrace it. So the key thing for me has always been to embrace it, because it's not going to go anywhere. And for the staff, they always feel that sense of technology is going to replace me. And all the fear around technology arises. So the key thing is a change management process that you need to implement to make sure that you bring everybody along. Thanks.
Hi, So when I went to varsity, it was the first time that I saw a computer. Unfortunately, I'm that old. And the way that I've navigated through my career is a couple of things. One is always looking for what I have in my hands. My father taught me a lesson that I call 2 out of 3, and I'm not going to tell that story, it's too long. But just that it was a situation where I had 2 of the 3 things that I needed, and so I do that. The other thing is the thing that I fear when I fear something in not necessarily in adventure, but when I fear something in the workspace, then I want to go for it because I want to overcome that fear. And then the last thing is, if you tell me I can't do it, if I hear those no's that I've heard so many times from so many people, many of those no's have been men. No disrespect to the men, but when I hear the no, it's like you've just asked me to please go and do it.
I'll go next. I have always been driven by purpose and dreams that I could change the world. And I remember I started my first business when I graduated from university, which I ran for 18 years in PR marketing. And it was great, it was fantastic. We grew to work with a global company, but I wanted to do something bigger than myself. And the notion of building a Pan-African company or business that is changing the way things are done and solving for Africa's informal sector specifically was really, really exciting. So after 18 years of running my media and PR company, I partnered with 2 other fellows, men, to build Adenian Labs. And our vision is to really create a global tech company that is contributing significantly from an impact perspective into solving for Africa's problems. For me, that vision is going to happen, and nothing that comes before me, whether it's a challenge in my day-to-day, a challenge in access to resource, is going to stop me. So that knowing where I want to go, what I want to see, is what keeps me going and what really pushes me. We currently are in 10 countries. I've lived in 3 countries in the last 5 years, and this is just the beginning.
Hi, everyone. I think I'm just going to share my story. I actually come from the mining sector. I was the HR director at a JSE mining company. And then I took the leap to move into consulting, which is an absolute different ball game, like you cannot even imagine. And I asked myself, what the hell are you actually doing after being 25 years in the mining industry? And it has been the most amazing, amazing journey. So in essence, just keeping up the pace with your young millennials and the young, it's mind-blowing. So firstly, I feel like, sure, this is like a dinosaur in this business. But bringing together the, just being yourself and being able to take this team along and develop them from a behavior perspective and pull tech in. They are just geniuses in tech. I was saying to Leanne, it like wows me, you know, to just work with these individuals. And just to bring those 2 together, I'm learning so much. And they're just learning to be themselves. Because I think over the years, as a woman coming through the different ranks, you kind of just need to be comfortable with who you are. And I think that for me is something I'm mentoring and training them as they are teaching me about ChatGPT and block. I've like, every day is a different journey. And Accenture is an amazing tech company. It's just overwhelming for someone like me. So I'm so proud of myself that I've moved into the consulting. So
Well done.
something to look forward to for all of you.
Thank you. I think you can hear the same. It's almost like you're talking, even though they don't know each other prior to coming here. It's like they've all discussed the answers, right? But it's true. Women at the helm have faced adversities, and that's why you're hearing the resilience, the learning culture that's becoming so obvious. And in the world that we're in right now, technology has the ability to replace itself in 20 minutes. That's the pace of technology and coding right now. If a competitor, forget the competitor, if anyone launches something, your competitor will copy it in 20 minutes. Because for the first time, we're living in a global village. Everything is so transparent. And so this is the adversity we're listening to. This is the open, and I love that there's an open mindset. And that comes with maturity. Monica spoke about the imposter syndrome. And Venetia is talking about transcending that. And I think it has everything to do with age and wisdom. And it's amazing. You know what I realized when you spoke, I'm going to call you Zondi, when Zondi spoke, was that I think I've got 4 generations on the stage right now. And this is very depictive of the work world that we're in now, the multi-generation. And that's the type of leadership. I mean, you're disrupting on 2 levels, the human level and the tech level. And that's already, a crucible to maneuver. So I'm going to move straight to Leanne on this question, because I think this is an important one. I know you didn't get a chance before, so I'll delve straight into it. In your view, how are women shaping the future of AI and innovation? And what unique perspectives do women bring to the table in this space?
So I'm going to start with first saying there's not enough of us. Let's go there first. Let's go to the elephant in the room. There is not enough of us women getting involved in this space in technology at all. I look after a business that spans Africa, and I have got three women in our team across the continent.
My God.
Yeah, of a team of 70. So it's just
You need
not
to speak
enough.
to Monica. She's got lots of women for you.
I mean, we're all gonna. I'm gonna be recruiting. I did say that when I walked in. I was like, I need to steal people, that's sad for me. And we'll obviously touch on some of that today as to what some of those fundamental reasons.
Well, what are the barriers? What are some of the basic barriers that we're still struggling with?
Yeah, I think there's some institutional things. Again, you mentioned a little bit of it, but we're not paying enough attention to the younger girls. Firstly, and first and foremost, in a continent like ours, there are still a lot of areas where it's a very traditional role that women are put into, young girls are put into, and they're not being encouraged to study stem cell, listen to me. I mean, go do that too, please. Important research. I've got 2 daughters that are in medicine, and that's probably why it came in my head, but they're not encouraged to go after STEM subjects because, again, they're put in this block of marketing, PR, whatever, psychology, whatever the case may be. We were talking about it earlier as well. I said, of all the interns we've gotten in the last 3 years, they've all been in the business side, and I've had 1 technical resource come through internships, and she was grabbed pretty quickly by the States. So I think that's something we're not giving them enough encouragement that this is something that they can do. And why it saddens me is because actually women bring a very unique requirement and dimension to AI in particular. There is bias in a lot of the AI. You all know where I work now, so you know I represent a very big brand. But there is still a lot of bias within a lot of that technology because it was created by cis white men, as an example, right? So you can't pick up bias as a male, a white male, of what a black female might be experiencing from an algorithm, right? Whether it's because of a loan that she processed and AI made the decision, as an example. So there is a level of that where we need women, and it makes us very, very unique and special. By the way, most of the initiatives across the world dealing with bias, dealing with deep checks into algorithms and data are women and it's women of color, because they are the most affected by modern technology's biases today. But also, and again, I will say what a lot of the other ladies did, love allies, and I have a son, so big fan. But there is a level of complexity that women can deal with in thinking that men can't. So they're tech geniuses, that's great. People are tech geniuses. We color outside the lines a little bit differently because our lives are a little bit different. I'm really hoping you don't ask the question, but I'm going to bring it up anyway so that you don't ask it. But no, I'm joking. I know it's on the list. But how many panels have you watched with men where they've been asked, how do you balance work and life and career? I know. But how many men get asked that question? Have any of the men in the room been asked that question?
What about the question about how do you manage your family life and your kids while you're at work?
How do you maintain being a good
You've never been asked
mom
that
while
question
working?
in an interview, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because we're so conscious of that, we think about things a little differently, and so I think we're really good at adding colorful dimensions to technology because, co-pilots, which is kind of the big rage coming out of Microsoft, it was a female development team because they were like, I need something that helps me just do exactly what you're going to ask me, do more with less, even though men don't get asked that. And so it was a bunch of female engineers that came together in Microsoft and came up with the initial co-pilot that we launched. Loved it. The guys weren't thinking about that. Like, how much time does an email actually take me? Enough time for it to cause stress, right? Your email today of 5 minutes times 10, and my kid that's coming home from school and still doesn't understand when mommy's on camera, please don't just stick your head in. Please stop asking me for Xbox time until your freaking homework is done. Please don't stand there going, I need those 5 minutes to tell him to leave the freaking Xbox alone, you know what I mean? As an example. So there's really that, and I think there's just, we underestimate what a difference we make in modern technology as women. We think with a different level because unfortunately we've had to be so conscious of so much because of how we've been treated based on our gender. And so we
Thank
take
you.
that stuff.
Thank you, Leanne. I'm gonna follow up on this, but I want to hear a non-tech view on this. As AI continues to evolve, what do you think leadership will mean in the digital age? And how can women ensure that they are leading in this new era? They definitely need it. So 2 parts to it. What do you think leadership will evolve to? And how can women be at the forefront where they need to be? A non-techie here?
I'm very much a techie.
Yeah.
Oh, we can take.
So we have HR specialists here as well. Yeah, let's go.
So I think that the way I see leadership evolving with tech, firstly, I think it's an opportunity for leaders to collaborate more and build more relationships, because work from a tech side is really an opportunity to get better at what you do. So you as a leader would actually have more time to actually build meaningful and authentic relationships, whether it's with your teams, whether it's with other leaders, or globally, or with other people, and also from a diversity side, different thoughts, different strengths. So in the way I see it is the behavior becomes more around engaging, caring, empathy, and I think that's where leaders are actually, especially with your younger generation, they would need that. As much as we think they want to stay at home with hybrid working, they actually want to have that connection. And maybe that's what tech's going to do for us. It's going to give us opportunity to build and mentor the next generation coming.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if anyone else.
Yeah, please do.
An amazing story that I went through in the company I work for, in that we were at a retreat. And normally in the company I used to run, or corporate, all of you, when you do a retreat, I don't know if you think about what type of team building exercises do you do. You normally go for, physical things, obstacles or whatever. Okay, amazing race and whatever. In this company, all of the breakout rooms for team building were relating to making art. So you could choose from making ceramics, painting, creating your own incense, writing poems together. And this was a mainly male-orientated company with millennials and Gen Z. And I thought, wow. So, and they're all techies, they're mostly engineers, okay? So you know how they say that your brain, the scientific brain, matches the art. That's why Einstein was a great violinist. So I think that that's what's happening. The scientist, I don't know if you feel like you want to go and do some artistic thing as a hobby, because it's amazing what this art is doing to these children. I call them children because my kids are all millennials. What should I call this? My team members that are very young. Okay, but it's something for us to start considering, to incorporate this type of activities. There's more the soft side, the right brain for these engineers to start communicating in different ways. I thought it was very incredible.
I think that's very stimulating. You're welcome to clap whenever you want to. And I think this talks to the consciousness of the individual as well, right? Tech has such a way of being so left brain, and excuse the pun, but of coding and uncoding everything. And so expressiveness on the right brain is what taps into the empathy, the nurturing that comes so naturally to women. And yet I'm sitting with a panel of women that are very, I won't say left brain, I'm going to say middle brain, because they have the ability to be logical, analytical, harness both the emotional side as well as that. And even in what Monica says, children, right? You'll never get a male leader that goes, these are my children. But I say it so often. I go, oh, I love you, my son. It's like so often I say this, right? And I think that's what we do. We bring in everything. Women leaders have this ability to bring in all their emotions, all that love. They operate from a love dynamic in the workplace. And I was having a conversation with my 15-year-old when he broke one of our values at home. And I said to him, there's only two ways we operate in the world. There's only two things, love and fear. There is only love and fear in whatever we do, in leadership, or in whatever thing, not only in leadership. You either operate from a space of love, knowing that you're safe, or in a space of fear, which is the flight and fight, right? And women have this ability naturally to bring in this warmth and wanting people to come to them. I mean, we don't always display it when you have to manage deadlines. I can attest to that. But it's definitely there, right? And so I want to move on with our next panelist. Let's look at the marketing arena, yeah, within CISPRO, right? So the marketing operations are evolving rapidly with new technologies. And AI has disrupted marketing the way we knew it. I mean, I'm an X generation. So back in those days, everything was above the line marketing and pamphlets and brochures. It's not needed anymore. Your website is your pamphlet and your brochure. It's tech, right? The way we reach out to you to invite you for events, all tech. What are you looking for on Google? And so then we follow you and look at your trends and we bring in. So tech has taken over marketing on a different level. So if you looked at marketing and operations, how do you balance innovation with the need for stability in the marketing dynamic?
Yeah, I think the main thing is being responsible still with the innovations that we have available to us. I think when people think about the tech industry and us that work in the tech industry, they assume that we use these technologies disruptively. We develop these technologies and we go to market with them disruptively as quickly as possible. We still have rules and regulations that we also need to abide by. So we love the systems that our vendors have come up with from a marketing perspective as well, and we use them responsibly. So we do balance that by being cautious and strategic and having a clear purpose as to why we are using those disruptive technologies and innovations that are available for marketing purposes.
But as a millennial, that's your friend. Disruption and technology is your friend, where it wasn't mine, right?
look, I'm a millennial, but more on the end of it.
Okay.
More on the responsible side of it. So,
Okay.
again, and I don't think we should make those assumptions that millennials and Gen Zs are irresponsible. They're not. They just have more of an apt to use those technologies and understand them, but the way that they apply them is still very responsible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Zandi, I like the way you assumed that when I said it's your friend that it's being irresponsible.
Yes.
Tech used, robustly doesn't mean that you're being irresponsible.
Yeah.
It means you have an affinity to use it. So Irene, let's hear from you. How do you use tech as a friend? With AI and marketing, you could get things out so much faster. So why not use it?
No, we do use
Yeah.
it. We absolutely do use it. But again, we also abide by, like I said, rules and regulations. So we can't use it as sporadically as we can. We do use what we can. We do use ChatGPT and your Copilot and other generative AI systems for content generation as
So
well.
Irene, let's get your input with your marketing expertise because you're both in different generations. So I'm so keen to see if you have different perspectives
I
on
don't
this.
even know what generation I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm 44.
X.
X. All right. You know what? One of my favorite phrase is
Yeah.
something I always say. I'm being silly. One of our co-founders say that it's not AI that is going to replace the human workforce. It's people who know and leverages AI who are going to replace the rest of us, right? So what does this mean? It means we have the responsibility to learn and upskill and evolve. And all these different tools that are out there, are important to make our lives more efficient, to create more access, to give us more equity. And someone was talking earlier about the bias, even the bias in use cases. The more we are not using these things, the more it's learning from people who are using it, and there's going to be a demographic that will be completely not included, right? So from a marketing perspective, I love using technologies. I mean, one of the things that we do at Adenian Labs is to reskill, work with companies to reskill AI in marketing, AI in HR, AI in media, because if we do not do that, we will be replaced by people who did not even specialize in those skill sets. One of the points that I wanted to make when you asked the question earlier, to say, what does AI mean for future leaders? It means decentralization. It means people don't have to be specialized to become lawyers or to become marketing executives, or anyone who's able to use the tools can build a whole value and create so much impact, using those, so think about that for a minute. And then what else does it mean? It means leadership is going to be horizontal, not vertical, because I don't have to go through so many steps to, become a leader in any field. As long as I'm using something, innovating something, or leveraging an existing tools and resources, I can wake up tomorrow and become that thing, So the world as we know it has changed.
Yes.
It's not changing, it has already changed. We're just playing catch up, and we need to be extremely cautious and urgent in how we move forward.
Well said, Irene. Well said. I'm going to move over to Neo. I am going to move over to Neo here. She's been quite in the corner there. Neo, as a leader as a leader in the HR space, but in the accounting perspective, right? How do you ensure that your teams are resilient and adaptable to the rapid change in the technology landscape? Because we always think of Saika as bean counters, the people that produce the experts around finance.
Yeah.
But very much like Irene's point, technology has disrupted.
Yeah.
I mean, think
Yeah.
data models, think data scientists, think data mining.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure blockchain? There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually in the learning and development space. What we have done at Saika is to automate a whole lot of processes that we had. So the teams that I work with are heavily involved. I think the key thing is to involve your people in the change that you are implementing. So they were involved from the development of user stories, of testing, all those processes in developing a system. So we made sure that the whole team is involved from the beginning to get a buy-in. So now they can appreciate the new change that's happening. So now when talking about our CAs that are coming through in the learning and development space, we have done research and found that, well, I think even kids at schools are being told that computers are going to replace accountants. So we had to move with the times. And as Irene says, we don't want to be caught behind. So we have a project that we called CA 2025 at some point. And now it is CA of the future. So we have identified competencies that a computer cannot replace.
Share that with us.
And we are harnessing on those. A simple analytics of the information that is being provided by the computer. You also have to have some competencies to be able to input that information into the computer, because as the IT people would say, garbage in, garbage out. So you have to have that skill to know that the information that you're putting in there is going to give you the results that you want. So even our assessments are moving in that direction. We have a digital acumen that we expect our candidates to be able to have by the time they become CAs. So we are moving as a profession to make sure that our CAs are always relevant and are agile to the changing world that we live in.
Now, just further on that, right? When an individual, sorry, I'm so congested, so just bear with my nasal voice today. I love that. I love that. Does it sound sexy? Does it sound like a foreigner now? When you think about, I'm talking about the student. Forget the professional.
Yeah.
When a student is coming in my mind, they cut off a different cloth.
Yeah.
The techie, the marketing, the accountant, they all cut off different cloths.
Yeah.
And now we get somebody that ran away from tech because their strength is financial management, accounting, taxes, audit, and they go into this profession. Isn't it not fearful now to superimpose this tech on them? I know it's necessary, but I'm thinking about this individuals that are coming into the world of going in a particular direction, and now everything is going towards tech.
I think that the important thing is to realize that we cannot shy away from the changing world and the IT. So if you let your fear rule you, then you'll be left behind. So we always insist on them embracing the technology, because otherwise they'll be stuck. They will be replaced, and we don't want that. Yeah.
Monica, I'm going to move to you. We've touched on it slightly. There's an undercurrent of blockchain in everything that we're talking about, right? And so when you think, or when we think blockchain and decentralized technologies are disrupting industries, we all think Bitcoin first, right? We think blockchain, Bitcoin, what's going to happen? Is the world going to be starting to shift into dark spaces that are so unknown to us? What role do you see women playing in this space, and how can they lead the space? And is it really this dark hole that blockchain is out to be, that you've got to be like super, super bright to get it? And it's so complex and complicated.
Okay, I promise you it's not complicated. If I understood it, anybody can. That's number one. I'm not a genius. I'm a normal human that loves to learn. That's all. So the first thing I want everybody to do is you download the white paper that was creating Bitcoin. Why? Because it sets out the ABC of what blockchain is all about. Once you understand, and if you don't like maths, skip the chapter on maths. But it's really 7 pages. So just read the concept of what it means to decentralize, to not have anybody as an intermediary, to make sure that everybody can get empowered to be your own bank. Everybody can actually empower yourselves to start your own business applying this technology. It's the most empowering, really, and technology that has ever been invented. And I'll give you a quick story. My whole life, since I was a little girl, I won't tell you why, I wanted to fight corruption. My whole life. That's why I became a chartered accountant, an auditor. I eventually, it was the technical director of SICA. I went to work for the World Bank, thinking I was going to save the world. That was dumb. You know, they're completely bureaucratic and they don't want to save anybody. So eventually I came back to South Africa and I started this amazing project, which was to implement the dematerialization of shares in the stock market. I did that. We created the Central Securities Depository. We converted the stock market from one of the worst in the world to one of the best in the world. So, and trust me, I'm not techie. I'm a chartered accountant. What did I know about technology? And I was implementing the biggest change management process in technology. And all along, I was trying to prevent corruption and, intermediaries abusing anybody. At the end of the day, the technology we built is full of intermediaries. You have the banks, you have the brokers, you have the stock exchange, the central bank that everybody trusts. You have lawyers, accountants, and at the end of the day, we still had in 2008 the financial market crisis. I'm sure many of you studied this or were there when it happened. And that's when someone who we don't know who she, he, or they is, called Satoshi Nakamoto, wrote the paper on Bitcoin to say, guys, you got it all wrong. You keep on centralizing. You keep on trusting these people. Humans cannot be trusted, sadly enough. We need to put technology that will prevent fraud and corruption. And that's when, I read the paper, I started crying. I thought, wow, that is the solution. We don't centralize. We don't give power to intermediaries. We give power to the people to become their own banks, no intermediaries. We empower them with simple language. It's really not complicated. It's very simple. But it's so different to everything you've learned. That's why we call it the Web 3.0. It's not Web 3.1, 3.2. No, it's 3.0. It's a new way of looking at the internet. And for boomers, it's super hard to understand because we were always told you need to trust your accountant, your lawyer, your central bank, your broker. In this technology, we say trust no one. We say don't trust, verify. Become self-sufficient. So this is the time for all of us, women, to become completely independent of everybody. And it just starts with you. You don't trust anybody. You know how many dumb people gave money to someone else to invest in Bitcoin? I think Satoshi would be turning in his grave if he was dead. I don't know. Because the whole idea was you don't give the money to anybody, you do it yourself. And you don't, I won't start the lecture on Bitcoin. But the issue here is that Bitcoin was just the beginning. We are now talking about Bitcoin is money, but we are now talking about what is called tokenization, creating real world assets into this new technology called blockchain. So everything is going to go into the blockchain in a decentralized way. So the sooner that you all start reading about it, and the sooner that you embrace it, and it's never too late to invest in Bitcoin, not financial advice, but just to tell you that I still am a huge believer. There's an article I wrote as to why I believe in Bitcoin. But in a nutshell, it's not because of the fact that it's a great investment. It's more because of the incredible self-sovereign right that you've got. Never again to have to ask permission to do whatever you want with your own money. For me, that independence has been something I cannot tell you. How free I feel that someone invented something that never again, will we have to ask permission or, to do whatever we want, So it's really a beautiful technology.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you. I think, Yushen, we're going to have to do a masterclass with Monica on blockchain. Let us simplify the 7 pages for us and take us through the math.
Just a quick thing. Just go to YouTube, put Monica Singer blockchain, because there's a singer called Monica that sings soul music. So, no.
That night job, she's
my
not telling
second
you.
surname is Soul.
Yeah.
So imagine, she comes first. So put Monica Singer blockchain, and then there's tons of lectures that I explain it in plain. That's the other
I've
thing.
listened to some of them, and she
I
really,
talk
really does simplify
plain
it.
English. And then after 1 hour, you're going to go, oh my God, that is incredible. Just go for it.
Empowering. Thank you. I think that's what blockchain does. It's about empowerment, right? And if that's what we're trying to disrupt as the 2024 women from the 1956 patent we've inherited, then we need to understand this and not be dependent on someone coding it for us or uncoding it for us, right? We really need to take power into our own hands here. I'm going to move across to who hasn't had a chance as yet for a while to speak. Faith, let's go to Faith. Faith, you are, in a completely male-dominated industry. That's probably why the lights go off so much, right? How have you been able to assert your leadership and drive change at Eskimo, making this personal now?
So, can I answer it from a vantage point of my career journey and not
Sure,
just Eskimo?
absolutely.
Okay, cool. So my career, there's been a couple of things that I had to navigate in terms of being in, because I've been in other areas where I've been in male dominated. I've had the blessing to be like the first woman appointed in excos, and then there's just men around, and then there's this shock of a female who has a little bit of masculine energy, which they don't really know what to do with because they're expecting feminine energy, and I'm not wanting to exude feminine energy in that moment, and so it's interesting. Yes. So how I navigated it is I found that it was difficult for me to be heard. And for many reasons, because not only would I sometimes be the only woman, but I'd sometimes be the only person of color. And so I found it difficult to be heard, and I did a lot of things to try to be heard.
So I think the women here want to hear those things. Yeah, I think that I think we all here identify with it. Yeah.
So I first got upset.
You got emotional.
Yeah. I actually was sent on a voice training course. I was so mad. I was so mad, and it was a female mentor of mine that said, you need to go on voice training. But it did teach me quite a bit, because with voice training, they teach you, first of all, you need to be relaxed. And then secondly, they talk about, I'm feeling, I hope the gentleman.
No, please go ahead.
Just know I love
Please
gentlemen.
Please go ahead. And you know what? We do this. Stop making apologies. Just go ahead.
Yeah. So they also teach you about the frequency at which you speak and the resonance and all those things, right? And that when you speak from your chest, you're a little bit warmer. You're a little more understood by men.
Oh, I'm going to do
And
this.
yes. When you speak
I'm going
from
to practice
here,
this.
do you see the difference? So you get heard a little bit more. I don't use it as often as I should, but that's.
But did you see it when you spoke from your? See, I'm high pitched. When you speak from your chest, you heard more.
Yeah.
Oh,
Deep is sexy.
lucky for you, Leanne.
Deep is very
I want to
sexy.
hear.
Sexy
I
is
think we
good.
all want to hear about this, right? Yeah. How do you get heard?
So voice training. I was also then given a book by one of my mentors around pitching a message, any message. And the book is actually called Pitch Perfect. And because I was struggling to get my message across, and it was all about, just how different ways and some, so for example, if you're talking about thousands of emails in making examples of so many Ellis box that you can fit in, etc. So that was very, very useful. I think the most eye-opening thing for me was when I arrived at the idea of being heard is my responsibility. And that I would need to explain it differently and probably many times. And that's okay. And that I would need to then choose which of my messages was so important that I would spend a lot of effort trying to get that message across, and then finding ways of having analogies. I always have an analogy. Having analogies of, bringing that message across. And I must say, analogies work well, but some people get offended. I've once used an analogy. I used a network analogy, and because we had congestion on our network, and I compared it to an interchange and how you have an off ramp, but then when you do an interchange, and the men who were engineers got offended that I used that as an example. I think they felt like maybe they were not, bright enough or something. I don't know. So it can go wrong. But I use analogy. So being heard, I think one of the things that I also found was that you actually do need to have a champion. I was in
Yes, yes,
an
yes.
environment where I was hired and the person who hired me wasn't championing me. And again, I cried. So I had my little iPad and I was like, oh, woe is me. I don't have a champion. And then once I did that, the next morning I got up and I went to look for one.
Good.
And I actively, and there's a couple of criteria that I look like, who's approachable, right? Because you also need to like actually lower those barriers a little bit, right? Who's approachable. And I actually hunted that person down. He doesn't know it because he's still my mentor. But hunted him down, and afterwards he was just a natural mentor to me. There's many other things, but let's stop at that.
I like those two. I can, and I'm sure Monica, Deanne, I think most of us, if not all, here and there can identify with that, right? And I call it heap-eated. Have you ever heard that? Heap-eated. So when you say something and you don't get heard, but a man says it and everybody hears it.
Man speaking.
Yeah?
Man speaking.
So it's not repeated, right? It's not repeated. You had an idea, and this happened to me on my first board post. I was in my 30s, I was young, everybody else was in their late 40s and 50s, and I would say something. So very much like Faith, woman of color, the first woman of color on that board, and young and female. So I would say something, and as it would go around, but 4 seats away, it was always about 4 or 5 seats because I could see the person. They would give the same idea, and everybody would applaud this idea, and I would go like, but I just said that. Like, I just said that. Like, how did they not hear it? So then I tried my pitch. And then I would try the conviction. And then I realized over time, it's a heap-eated thing. If a man says it, the other men in the room hear it. So then I had a mentor who was male in that particular organization. And he picked it up. And the third time he called me out. He said, but you said that, so why didn't you own it? I said, because he said that. He said the same thing. And he says, no. And I wasn't confrontational at all. At all. And so he said, the next time you said it, say, I love the way you articulated my idea. You did such a good job.
Yes, I do the same.
And I was so astounded. And I said, I don't know if I can do that. And he said, of course you're going to do it.
Yeah.
He said, the next time someone does that, you go, I just love the way you articulated my idea so powerfully. And I was really scared the next time. I was really scared. Because I thought, like, what if people say, but that's not what you said? But he built me up nicely. He said, own your idea. And it's your idea, so back yourself up. And I said to him, but why didn't you say anything? He says, no.
No, you've got to say it.
I'm not your backbone. And so I learned what heap-eated was. And so when it happens to you, I challenge you, say the same thing. I love that you articulated my idea so well. You know, congratulate the person, because clearly they articulated it better than you, but run with your idea. You know, and let me tell you, I got promoted 3 times over after that.
Wow.
Because people started to listen to my idea because I was owning it versus giving it away each time. Right? Because you have the idea, someone takes it, they don't know how to execute it, and guess who's going to execute it for them?
But can I just
They adopt you.
Yeah. Can I just add, we need to take responsibility for the younger women as well.
Yeah.
We need to lift.
Yeah.
Because it still happens very
absolutely.
often. It still
All the
happens very
time.
often. And I've been in a situation where we were doing some discussion, and a young lady put her hand up, and I know her, so I know that hand is going up for a good reason.
Yeah.
She was junior to most of us, and that courage it takes to put your hand up, and you know all your seniors are sitting there. And she was about to speak, and one person interrupted her, and I let it slide. And of course male, and then another person interrupted, carried on the conversation, and then a third. And when the third male did that, I was like, guys, no. Let us respect the opinion. She had her hand up. Can we just listen to her? And then we can continue another conversation.
So you've become a mentor.
You have to. You're not
And I think
necessarily
that's
just a
important.
mentor, but look out for all the ladies that are out there that need that little bit. To your point about heap-eated, if that lady is, and you're right, you need to own it yourself. But if she's not there yet, where she can say, I love how you're repeating it, to say, wow, that was what she said.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm a little more confrontational than you, but so something nice.
Yeah. I had to get beat up a good few times to start understanding how to be confrontational. I mean, I think my team wouldn't even believe that I was non-confrontational, right? Yeah. But I was such a wuss back then. Am I confrontational? I think I deal things now. Yeah. Let's move on. I'm going to. Yeah, I'm also mindful of time, and I know we could sit here for a very long time chatting. But let's get back to AI a little bit more, and then I want to branch off into to leadership, the conversations we're having. But I think we came here about this AI because it's something that's so daunting for everyone, right? When ChatGPT came as an institution, we were flabbergasted. You know, what does it mean for our students? Can they all just copy and paste, and how would we be able to track this? And we had to take a decision. Let's make it our friend. Let's change the way we assess students now, because it's here to stay, right? Testing them on a textbook now is not going to matter when they get out into the workplace if they've got. I mean, I learned about one from you the other day. What was it? Perplexity. I only knew about Gemini and ChatGPT, and then Monica was telling me about Perplexity, and I was like, oh, I need to go and check this out, right? So we need to make it our friend, but we don't know how to, because we don't come from the tech space. So when we look at how we evolving with AI, tell us what we need to be doing as women in leadership. What should we be doing? Okay, one is an open, being open-minded, being open to learning. But how do you be open? Like, I didn't know Perplexity existed. So, but wait. But even before that, I didn't know it even existed. So how do we know what we don't know?
For me, it's to learn how to ask questions. Why I love Perplexity with the competition is because you download the app and then you ask the question. And then you're not sure if you really got the question right. So what this app does is that it gives you other questions. And then you go, oh, yeah, I want to know about that and that. And you can spend, and you go down this rabbit hole of trying to find out the original answer. But then you learn much more about what don't you know that you don't know how to ask? So this app gives you additional questions. So in my humble opinion, everything in this new technology world is about just do it. Even in the blockchain world, download MetaMask. It's a wallet, and put 100 rand and see what happens. Buy something, sell something, transfer, move. It's like if you had to learn how to use emails. Do I give you a lecture on emails? No. I give you a laptop. I said, okay, go for it. The same with this new technology. Just do it. Don't get intimidated.
Okay, Nike, thank you. Leanne.
Firstly, I really loved what you said. Sorry, I just had to comment around
Absolutely.
Standing up for younger
yeah.
women and giving them the courage to stand up for themselves. I adore that. There's a couple of things. Firstly, everyone is talking about AI as if it's brand new.
She really does speak from the chest. I'm
really
so
do.
aware of it. I'm so
Do you wanna
aware
know
of it.
something
Everybody probably listens to you in the boardroom.
I hope so. I think so.
Oh,
I'm also
I need to
I've
go
been our
to
spirit animals,
move to the
though,
chest.
for sure. I used to sing, by the way. I studied music and drama.
You
And here
see,
I
that's
am.
why. The articulation.
Look how I pivoted. People are talking about AI as if it's new. It's been around since the 50s.
How?
The reality is it's been around since the 50s. IBM was a pioneer in this space. You've been using AI forever. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, the beeping on your car when you're going too close to the pole, and I do not believe women drivers are bad drivers, for the record. Putting that out there, I don't think it was invented for us. That's AI. You're already exposed to it, right? So the difference is that generative AI, ChatGPT, Llama, Meta, the difference is this. People that used to work with AI previously were typically data scientists, had a very deep technical skill of some sort, programmers, developer. Generative AI has democratized that. An everyday business manager, psychologist, PR, marketing, PA, doctors can use and build something with AI. It doesn't have to have you don't have to have a PhD. You really don't. And so we need to embrace that component. It's democratized for you. So what you said, 100%, explore. When cell phones came out, did we have to give ourselves manuals? No, we didn't. And it disrupted everything, did it not? When the internet came out, We definitely didn't have to teach ourselves how to use it. We ran to it. This is the same thing. You mentioned it, the industrial revolutions. It won't be the last. It wasn't the first. My mom is petrified of it as well. She daily tells everyone, I have no idea what my daughter does. But I'm pretty sure she does something that's taking over the world. I have 4 children. The eldest are 21. The youngest is 11. I guarantee you, whatever they're going to do is going to take over the world, right? My 16-year-old definitely is going to take over the world. But yeah, I think it's stay curious and embrace, and it will come to you as well. I think that's the thing. So you didn't know about one component, but you knew about generative AI. Yes. By nature, the rest will follow and come at you, because everything you use in your day-to-day life will be integrated with it. In WhatsApp, you can see Meta already. It is generative AI. That's what it is.
I mean, the simplest of things, when I started using YouTube Music, I just loved the intuition it had about the types of music that it starts suggesting to you. I was like,
Exactly.
wow, this is amazing. You know?
AI.
But that's such a
Spotify.
simple thing. Such a simple thing.
It's
you know?
so simple, but it's
Yeah.
there, and it's generative AI is just it's integrated into so much, and it continues to be. Traditional AI of machine learning, it's every single day. Spotify, I don't know who uses Spotify, or even the Apple Music thing, but Spotify, I feel like gets me so many days where it will feel my mood, right? It will know I'm either angry chick music today, or I'm sobbing about
I'm
someone
so getting Spotify
someone I missed that I didn't even know I loved. You know, or I'm vibing to a song that my daughter would die if she saw me dancing to in the car or whatever. but it's an algorithm, right? It's there, and it's the first 3 songs that you skip on, it will start picking it up. But man, when it hits, like it just knows you that day. You're like, gosh, you get me so much.
I love that. I love that.
So yeah, I mean, be curious about things, but just be open and exposed, because you're already using it. I promise you, today you are using it already.
So Faith already went into my next question, and I think the women here really want to get to know you, right? And not just generative AI. They know that you're at the top of your field. And Faith spoke about some of the challenges, but as a woman in leadership, talk to us about some of the challenges that you've been presented with and how you've overcome it. So we want to hear some of your personal challenges here, because I think that's what we take out of here, the identity that we run. And you know, when women are aspiring into leadership, you always think the people at the top have it all together. You know, they probably, you look at a Monica and think, white female, she, you know, it must have come easy, you know. But those are some of the stereotypical things that come with being at the top of your game. So talk about some of your challenges and how you've overcome. Let's start from, Faith has taken hers. Let's talk to the other women. Because
okay.
I'm sure the women here can identify with that.
Let me try and share some. I was an executive at a mining company, so I'll share an HR executive. And obviously, I was fairly young in my early, giving away my age, but in my 40s, when I became the youngest executive to sit on the mining executive team, and also lots of boards, etc. And lots of older people. It was quite intimidating. But it taught me quite a lot. It taught me to be bold. And it also, I also had lots of sponsors. So male sponsors, female sponsors, that gave me the opportunity to empower myself. And I think that was one of the most amazing things that I found in that role. The challenge, what I found, was being a young mum. So my kids were born late because I studied when I was much older, and then I started working and they were born late. So the challenge I really faced was spending time with my kids, because it was an all-consuming role. You know, as you would know in corporates, you go from exco meetings to board meetings to exco meetings to board meetings, and it was all-consuming. And I think, I don't regret it, but I do think we should, well, I feel I should have spent more time with my kids. And that's something I would always miss and feel guilty about. As a young executive coming up, a black female wanting to be, they want to bring you up in ranks. That was one thing I was challenged with, is spending time with my family. And now my kids are much bigger and they tell me, but you were never here. And I think that's where you kind of pick up that, look, what is it? What did you do? You're always on your emails, you're always working, you're never at home. I have an au pair the whole time. So I
Remind them of all the things and all the benefits they got because of your sacrifice, really.
I think that only takes you so far, right? You have all the monetary, you can take them on holidays, you can do whatever. And maybe that is definitely the benefit. But I think it's a quality time. So if I look back and if I had to do it differently,
What would you do, Venetia?
that's actually a good question. And that's probably why I left executive and moved. I went into a sabbatical for a year and spent time with them. And then decided to go into consulting, which is great, but there's peaks and troughs.
Yeah,
So you kind of know, okay, I'm going to be busy now, but I'm not busy continuously.
yeah.
And I think that's the benefit for me,
Okay.
is to try and find that balance. And if you have young kids, I think if you want to make sure they have the right values and they're growing up in this fast-paced society, that is one thing I would do differently, spend more time with them.
Thank you for being so authentic, Venetia. Thank you.
My challenge was similar to yours. It still is. Yeah, it's a constant fight where you feel like you're not being heard. And you do have a voice. I think something that I always remind myself is that there is a reason why I am here, in that boardroom, on that table. So I always remind myself that I belong here. I'm going to speak my voice whether you hear me or not. So that's the challenge that one has to constantly fight. And the second one is the emotion. We are emotional beings, and sometimes that emotion is used against you. When I don't like what you are saying, you are being emotional. So that is something, I have a coach, we are working on that, but I've learned to know when to and when not to. Even if it means I have to leave the room, I do that. So I think the balancing of the emotion is very key. So it's a constant development that one has to have.
I love that you've taken ownership of it.
Yeah.
You've looked at it,
Yeah.
and you're taking ownership. You've got
Yeah.
yourself a coach,
Yeah.
and
I think the thing is,
Yeah.
I thought it was bad.
wait, I'm gonna hand
Yeah.
over to Monica because I'm
Yeah.
also gonna challenge you on this one,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think I said it at our staff meeting at the beginning of this month, and I said, happy is an emotion.
Yes.
Joy is an emotion.
Mm.
Sadness is an emotion.
Yeah.
Being upset because you triggered me is an emotion.
Mm.
When I'm happy, you're not telling me I'm emotional. When I'm agreeing with you, you're not telling me I'm emotional.
Yes.
So be aware of that.
Yes.
That you are expressing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you should
Yeah.
comment.
You know what? I just get a little bit angry to think that you need a coach because you're being emotional. Why? Yes,
No,
I'm
no, no. A
emotional,
coach, sorry, a
so-
coach was for other things, and then that's also part of it. So it's a
Yeah.
holistic picture
Yeah,
that you're
but still,
looking
why
at.
should you be less emotional? I'm
Yeah.
an emotional human. So,
Yeah.
live
I
with
bring
it.
me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no.
Can I wanted to share my challenges from an entrepreneurial perspective. So I have always been an entrepreneur. I've never worked for anyone from forever. And one of the biggest challenges, especially think 2004, I'm in Tanzania, which is my country. I launched a PR company, PR and media company, at a time when PR and media was not a big deal. So that constant fight to prove to the industry, right, that you have a product that can add value, then you need to go into an educational thing. I remember spending 2 years just going from one client to the other, educating them on what this thing is, what it means. So that was one of the toughest things, right? I'm experiencing it now that I'm in technology, 20-something years later in my second business, where we're talking about solutions that can in healthcare, that are blockchain driven, that can digitize the entire healthcare industry, and you have to still educate. And we're competing in a world where there's the Microsofts of the world that have a huge track record across the world, and you're an African company, so those challenges I experience them every day, but you continue to say, going through how do you say, like finding that one, second, third entity that believes in you and using that to showcase and build on it. But just believing that with time, I mean, it took 18 years. My previous company was still valid, but it took time. 6 years later is when the first formal education in public relations was established in my country, after having run a company in that industry for all that time. So time does catch up eventually. It's just being resilient and finding partners and supporters and champions and door openers and table bangers who really believe in you and can speak on your behalf. Yes.
Oh, on my challenges, I think being in tech, and especially being again a young Black female South African, and working for global tech companies, which is where my experience has been. You work with males and females from especially different countries, especially that country where the blonde man is from. It's very challenging. They are undermining, especially because you are from a third world country. And so you have to work with those men that think you probably, just by disposition where you're from, you don't know as much about technology and about business as they do. And they're much more technical. They think they're much more technical. So I think how I've overcome those challenges, firstly, I think it's really believing in myself. And I'm grateful for having an upbringing where, I was raised to be confident in myself. So I really think it's important for girl children to be given, to be brought up with confidence, that they must believe in themselves. And also I think going back to some of what's been mentioned today is understanding yourself, understanding your blind spots, understanding why you feel insecure, and then you can address that. So I think because I was lucky or fortunate enough to be a confident person, even in meetings with American white males, I tell them as it is. I speak, I just tell them as it is. I'm not afraid. I'm as much of a professional as they are. And I think it's also important to identify what your strengths are as well, because they are in the tech industry, a lot of them are technical. So it goes against a bit of, about the AI and the technical skills with ladies, but I do find that I have much more of a business acumen, because we are in business at the end of the day, even though it's tech, but it's business. We have to drive value, we have to compete in these markets. So that's what I typically would focus more on, whilst they're fighting over technical capabilities and those sorts of things.
Can I add something onto it? I love that, because we obviously work in a very similar industry, closely aligned, so I experienced the same thing. I'll never forget that when I was given the role as a data and AI specialist, a man that was meant to be my partner in crime said to me, you're lucky that you're a woman, because I put some really good men forward for this role and they didn't get it. And Microsoft is driving diversity and inclusion. I marched that man right to HR on Teams. I did not hesitate. I lodged a complaint. I did my thing, because there was no way anyone was going to take my star and stamp on it. Like, that was my star, I got it, dude.
Absolutely.
Like, sorry, But the one thing I wanted to add on what you said, because that we really do work in a bizarre industry as well, with a lot of American men. And even some of the American women, very right-wing, have the same tendencies, which blows my mind. Totally blows my mind. You come from a country where you guys have way more opportunity to break down barriers, and they will treat us like we are from some S-hole country, which is daft. I mean, I still get asked, how do I come from Africa?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I'm white. And I'm like, please use the internet more. Do a little bit more research, my God. You'd be surprised to know there's a couple of us spread across the continent. We came here in 1920 and we stayed. I don't know, just do some research. You just learn. Please do better. But we still face that, and I think, that standing up is what is important, and saying what you need to say, because even here in our country, on our continent, you're exposed to this as well, right? We have countries, guys, where women are not having these kind of conversations or dialogues at all. They're not enabled to do that, right? And so there's work we can do here. While we deal with the messy Americans, there's work we can do here. But I think part of what you were saying that I think is important as well is find a woman or a man, but find a woman that models what you want to be when you have challenges and how she overcame them, and make sure she's in your camp. And that's probably how you're going to overcome future sort of challenges, and then be that for the next woman. I'm very fortunate. If you don't know her, if you don't know about her, I'm going to do a shameless plug here. Go and read about Lillian Barnard. She's the president of
icon.
Microsoft Africa. She's the reason I moved to this new role. She's the reason I took the leadership role. I moved to Africa, got out of my comfort space, because the things that woman has done and the barriers that she has broken. She was the youngest ever MD in IBM, woman, youngest, and was a woman. She led their Singapore business, a young woman from Africa. Find someone like that, and any barrier you come across in leadership, that's the kind of person, if you can model them, you'll get through them all. Make it a woman though, please.
I can share something personal. Okay, so the message that I bring to all of you is, don't make the mistake I made. Okay, what was my mistake? I was so passionate my whole life about everything I did, totally. And I kept on saying, even if it kills me, I'm going to do this. That was my mantra, And currently I've got stage 4 cancer. So the issue is that I did it on purpose, clearly, because I take responsibility for the sickness. Because never for once did I say, oh, I think I better go to the doctor, have a checkup, and slow down and have less stress. Or no, it was like, you know what, fuck the stress, I don't care. No, really, it was like, I give you an example. Before I get to stage 4 cancer, I had, for example, a simple sickness where my face got paralyzed. It's a simple sickness. You get the flu, and then the nerve gets inflamed, and it paralyzes your face. So I went to the doctor holding my clearly like this. I walked like this. The doctor laughed, and he says, why are you so advanced in Bell's palsy? And I said, because I was too busy working. I didn't have time to come to the doctor. It took me 6 months to recover my face. That was so dumb. And then I started having tumors. They were all benign until the big one. And I faced them, and I even had brain tumors and whatever. Eventually the big one came. So what I'm saying to you is that, yes, it's all very nice to try to save the world and be successful, but even be a good mother. The truth is that we do all that, but we leave us last. And we're too busy to even take a holiday. I've got a daughter-in-law that today she's in Cape Town because she wanted to take a break from her family. I thought, oh my God, I never, ever did that. Never. I would have had the guilt of my lifetime doing that. So what I'm saying, guys, is that I really think that if I could write my own book again, I would take care of myself a little bit better. So I really want to tell you that cancer, the chance of cancer is in all of us, and stress is really the big thing. So just manage your stress. Don't let it get out of hand, okay?
I wondered if you were going to mention it. And this is the courageous leader that Monica is. It really is. I mean, it's been a few years now that I can say we, because she's got a support network around her, and doing many, many different things, and using tech to try and find out what are all the things in the world that's going to help this, and braving this. I call her a warrior. And that's really the spirit of the women here today as well. Really, really the spirit of the women that are here today. These are women that have really climbed and overcome. But it's so important the message that she gives. And it's something that I think every week she reminds me of as well. Take a break, when are you going to take a break? And she always says to me, you don't do this to yourself, don't become me. And I think this is important. There's many a times that we feel as women that we need to, like you said, you know, and I was you too. If they say I can't do it, I need to show them that not only can I can do it, because my dad ingrained it into me. There's no such thing as I can't in your vocabulary. He would drill this. I can't, I can't doesn't exist. And that's something he left me in with his legacy. If somebody else can do it, you can do it better. So, yeah, so if they tell you you can't do it, then I had to prove that not only could I do it, but I had to do it like even better, right? But at what cost? At what cost? You know, at which point do we just be and stop trying to prove that we deserve? And that's the imposter syndrome. You know, I remember coming to Regenesis, and I came in because I was heading up the Regenesis Foundation, and then pandemic hit, and I went into global sales and marketing because that was my prior roles in other companies as MD, and sales and marketing was my thing. But because it was an education space, I felt like an imposter. And I would always say I'm the plumber. I'm just here plugging holes for them, right? I'm just trying to do it until they find the right person, until they find this person to do it, until they get over this crisis. But we do it all the time to ourselves. We keep justifying why we're not the right person. And it comes at a huge cost. And so I want to tell each of you here that you matter, that you really do matter, and that your health, no one's going to prioritize, you know. And we all spoke about men. And I want to bring up something that's also an elephant in my room, right? There's also women that will pull you down. Yeah? Right? Because it becomes like everyone's trying to prove. And we forget that we don't need to prove to each other, that we need to embrace each other and create platforms for people to climb up. And even if you have to climb up on my shoulder, you know, I'll bend down to let you climb up. Because, and that's what leadership is about. It's about making space for others. I see your hand, Faith. It's about making space for others and allowing them not to feel privileged that you're the first woman of color in a board, but to open that double door and make it known that other women are allowed in, right? So I want you to think about that today. How do I become the woman that is a sister to others? How do I become a woman that's a champion of others? How do I make caring? It doesn't matter if you weren't allowed that time out when you needed on your maternity leave, that you should make it possible for the next woman to have it. Not because I didn't have it, you shouldn't have it, right? And that's something that we really need to hold ourselves accountable to. Am I really creating a sisterhood? Am I really creating an environment for other women to feel empowered, to grow and become their best version? Because, you know, light doesn't diminish when it shares itself. Only darkness dissipates. And so sharing your light, sharing your candle, there'll be a day when you need their fire, when your oxygen is low. Your light never goes, but the oxygen can just go out on you. And so you're going to need their light too. And it's important to be authentic. You know, I remembered, and I know the women here as well, listening to them. When you go into the boardroom, you have to put on a male persona firstly, isn't it? We've all had it, right? The first thing you do is put on a male persona because you need to be tough enough. But what about being vulnerable enough? And being authentic and being real? And I think that's what we want to leave here with today. I noted Faith's hand. I want to give her a chance as well to say her piece there. Over to you, Faith.
Thanks. So Monica, I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to thank you for being brave like that. And I wanted to thank you for reminding us who should know and for telling us who don't know. I a while ago realized that for everything that we say yes to, you're saying no to something else. And we very rarely take the time to decide whether we're okay with saying no to it. I had a similar experience. My kids were small. My kids literally slept under my desk. And today they also tell me you weren't there, and I was there, but they tell me I wasn't. My answer is, this is why I send you to therapy.
I love it. I'm going to use that line.
So I get you. Go and tell your therapist. so 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 it's just so important that we understand what our non-negotiables are. And I think the more you get to know who you are, is to understand that non-negotiable. And it's actually, and to ask yourself, if I say yes right now, am I comfortable that I'm not going to go watch that game of my sons, or that I'm not going to be able to do what I need to do? And then lastly, I wanted to share that I've just come from, and I have to rush after this, I'm sorry, but we've got our we call it EWAP, which is ESCOM Women Advancement Program, and we have a 2-day conference, and tonight is a gala, which I'm going to be late for, but I prioritize this. One of
So
our
much.
one of our one of our directors, our non-exec directors, she spoke this morning at the conference, and she was talking about, your wellness, and there's a lot of, if we start talking about wellness, we'll be here forever. But what was so interesting, because she was talking about male and female energy, and what was so interesting is that she spoke about, because there's a quote that I love that I heard that says, the best gift I can give you is a healthy me. And the best gift you can give me is a healthy you. And what she said was that we need to recognize, because we're so busy being superwoman, that we don't understand we're not healthy right now. And she said, when I show up in the boardroom in an unhealthy state, I create toxicity. And she said we must be really careful about looking after our health. And the thing, it's your physical health, it's your spiritual, it's your intellectual, it's your relational, it's your emotional health. And we feel shamed. We feel ashamed to say, oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I need to take time out, because that's not what, especially as older ones, that's not what got you. Where you can't go tell your boss, last night for the first time at 9:30, if you repeat this, I'm gonna deny it. I
You
said
can't get everyone to sign NDAs before they
NDAs.
leave here.
For the first time in my entire career, I said to my boss, I am exhausted. The response was not necessarily. I still, there was no, like, but I'm super proud of myself. That after so many years, I can say to my boss, I'm exhausted. And I'd like to do this tomorrow. I still did it last night.
Any last closing comments, please?
Just a thought on women and women leaders, and as women reporting to women as well. So I do have a female boss, and she is American as well. So you guys can understand. Says a lot. And I've learned, she's not my first female boss, but mostly they've been South African. But I've learned that I think it's important for women to be assured of themselves, because when we're not, back to what you were saying, we take it out on other women, and it's really toxic, and we don't support each other, and we don't enable each other. So I think it's really important to get to know yourself, really be honest and true with yourself about your standing emotionally and mentally as well, because it definitely rubs off on other women, and it does impact other people's lives and livelihoods.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Any last? Yeah, Felicia?
So I'll just share this with you. So when I was telling Athene, right, that my husband drove me here because we actually live in Pretoria, and so I asked him, look, I had the question, so I said, look, what do you think, a successful woman what qualities must she have? And he works, he's also working, he's an executive at a company, and he said, they just mustn't prove themselves, they can just do it. And I thought, wow, is that what you really mean? So, and he says, yes, they've got all the skills they need. They just need to go and do it. They don't have to double prove themselves. Just be resilient and do your thing because you will make it work. So I thought I'll just share that with you because I think there are people there that knows that we can do it. We don't have to prove it to anyone. We just go there and do our thing. And thank you so much for being part of this panel. I really enjoyed it.
So glad. Let's give all of these women a round of applause. I think they deserve a standing ovation. I think they do. Huh? I think they've been so authentic. You know, when I teach the professional quotient of personal mastery in personal branding, the module on personal branding talks about your strengths, your values, brand clarity, authenticity, and I see it here today. I see it. And the question I always say to the students is, your brand is what people say when you're not in the room. So what are you putting out there that is giving this impression because it's your brand? So best you own it. Don't start falling over because people are saying this about you. You're putting something out there. And that's what you're talking about, really. You've lived it. There's some of you climbing up to live it, and we look forward to you rising to your ranks in power as well as a millennial. And I think we're maneuvering in a world that's really is a polycrisis, because apart from just the tech that's evolving, leadership has not even been defined yet for the future. The pandemic's just, was an alchemist, honestly, in everything that's created around us now, and we should be thankful for that. But we're maneuvering in uncharted territories for the first time. But the one thing that you can be sure of is yourself. The one thing that you really can own is you. So I didn't plan for this, but I'm going to end off with a story. I'm going to tell you a story because I hope you can reflect on this. But a woman goes to God one day and she asks God, what is the value of life? And so God doesn't answer, but he gives her a stone. And he says to her, go and get the value of the stone. But there's one rule. You cannot sell the stone. So the first person she goes to with the stone is selling fruits. And she goes to the fruit seller and says, what is the value of the stone? So the fruit seller says, I'll give you a dozen oranges for this. So she says, no, I cannot sell this. And so she takes it and she walks along the road, and then the next person she sees is a vegetable seller. So she asks the vegetable seller, can you tell me the value of the stone? And the vegetable seller looks at the stone and says, I'll give you a pocket of potatoes for this. And she says, no, I can't sell the stone. And she leaves. And she walks further down the road, and the next person, she sees a sign says jewelry store. So she goes in, and she hands it in to the jeweler. And he looks at the stone, and he brings out his magnifying glass, and he weights it, and he looks at it, and he says, I'll give you $100,000 for this. So she takes the stone and is about to leave because the rule is you cannot sell it. He misunderstands it and he says, okay, come back. I'll give you $150,000 for this. Right? He must have been an Indian jeweler. Right? And then she says, no, I actually cannot sell this. And she's making her way back home. And then she sees another sign that says, precious gems. And so she goes inside curiously, and she says to this owner, what is the value of the stone? So he takes a breath in, and he doesn't touch the stone. He disappears in the back. He gets a red velvet cloth. He places the cloth down. He gets another cloth. He takes it from her. He polishes it. He puts it down. And then he doesn't do anything. He just walks around the stone and looking at it from all angles. And then he goes in front of the stone, and he places his head down in complete reverence. And he says to her, there's nothing I own or have that can give you a value for this. It is priceless. And she takes the stone and she goes back to God. And God says, what have you learned about the value of life? And she couldn't reconcile this. So she says, well, when I went to the fruit seller, they were going to give me the oranges. Then I went to the vegetable seller and they were going to give me a pocket of potatoes. Then I went to the jeweler who went from 100,000 to 150,000. And then I met a man who said this was priceless. And he said, you are the stone. And your value of life depends on the person that you are trading with. They can only give you based on their capacity and their knowledge. The fruit and the vet seller will not know the capacity of a precious gem. And my dear ladies, if you're waiting to find a precious gem seller to evaluate you, then you're trading your life every day for oranges and potatoes. Because you're leaving your value into the hands of someone else. In about 8 billion people, really, you've heard this saying before, you are unique. You're already your precious gem. Your value, your weight, your clarity is different because you're meant to be different. So why are you trying to copy and paste against everybody else for a value and waiting for a price to get put onto you? Just be you. Recognize that you are unique. Your power is really within you. Now, I've quoted Dr. Marco without intending to. But the power is really within you. Everything that you have for every trial, every tribulation, every accolade is already there. These tests that come your way are blessings to show your strength. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt that said, women are like tea bags. Put them in hot water to know their strength. These are your tests. I always say I'm in a crucible. You get pelted so that your gold can shine. So welcome them. Welcome your adversity. Welcome your strength. Stop praying for your obstacles to be removed. Pray for strength to deal with them. You know, I think if anything Monica's left us with sharing such a bold, deep, within herself, soul-bearing moment, is that she overcomes. She looks so radiant here, isn't it? Right? Not something that you'd expect when someone says, I've got 4th stage cancer. And she really is she is my role model. And constantly encourages me. So I'm going to recap some of the things you've said here that's helped me along the way. I've had gems like this that have carried me along the way, really have. And not in a nice way. She's not nice when she mentors me. Let me just tell you that. She's not nice. She's like, don't come and talk to me again if you haven't done this, right? And you need mentors like that, yeah? Because they hold you accountable to yourself. So there's one thing that I do, and I think that has helped me in my journey. I have my own board of directors. You must have your own board of directors. Those are your people that don't agree with you. If I want financial advice, I know who's my board of director. If I want IT tech advice, I know who's that board of director. If I need to make a career decision, I know who's that board of director that I bounce off. You need to have your own board of directors. They don't always agree with you, but they hold a mirror for you that will challenge you and grow you. And this is for men and women. You need your go-to people. The people that are your yes people, please remove them from your board of directors because you will never grow with them. Because when you're having your pity party, they will sit in the party with you with tissues and allow your pity. And a lot of us like that. We love that attention. You know, we love to feel like somebody knows my space. Get rid of them very quickly, right? Because you weren't born to be pathetic. You were born to be great. And your real people will allow you to have your moment. There's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong with having your moment. There's everything wrong when you sit in there and have your moment forever and a day. It's about rising up. And I do believe women, really do. I think it's a gift being a woman because God creates and the only other person that can create on earth are women. And I really do believe that women are a glimpse of God in creation at its best. So step into you and stop comparing. Stop being a victim and become a victor. And align yourself with people that make you into eagles. Rise above the storms because you can. And understand that they didn't have it easy. But then be willing to go through the fight. And if you're willing to go through the fight, you'll get there. So let this Women's Month count, not for a motivational afternoon, but for transformation. Take things out of here and commit to yourself. Even if it's one thing, commit to change something within you. right? And that's what I would love you to leave here. I'd love you to gift yourself transformation, because nobody can do it for you. Only you can. So we're wishing you a woman's journey and not a woman's month today. So happy Women's Month and happy Women's Journey to each of you. I wish you only success, abundance, and great health. Right? Thank you, everybody. So there's been food out there. You're welcome to interact with our panel. Please ask them questions. There's some gifts that we have for them as well. Let me hand that over. And please have a happy networking session and a growing session too. Thank you, everybody.